How's it going? This is the Instant Regret crew. This is now the third time that we tried to record this, so we're just going to roll with me fumbling over words. This is Heather. I'm Seawake. Tonight, we're going to be doing a recap of the first episode of Black Lightning. So, just so you know, right now, this is your chance to turn off this video if you have not seen the first episode of Black Lightning yet, because this is not just a spoiler alert. This is like a full-on, like,
play-by-play.
Like, it's not just little tidbits. We're going to spoil the entire fucking episode for you. So if you're, this is something that, you know, is going to upset you, just turn it off and catch the recap, you know, after you watch the episode.
But if you won't have a chance to watch it, this might be the perfect chance for you to hear what happens.
And if you don't have a chance to watch it, you're doing it wrong. Make time in your life. Like, spend less time with your family and your kids. Maybe take, like, a day off of work. You know, just do something really irresponsible that you probably shouldn't do and watch this, because it was the best show that CW has put out so far. I mean, one episode in, like the premiere episode of The Flash or Arrow or whatever, I mean, none of them have compared to this so far. To give you a little background before we get into the episode, Black Lightning was the first African-American DC hero. He debuted in Black Lightning #1 in 1977. He was created by Tony Isabella and artist Trevor Von Eden. Black Lightning has been in and out of print for a good while, under two writers, between 1995 and 2009, since his initial 11 comic stint in 1977 through 1978. He's appeared in Justice League Unlimited, or no, not Justice League Unlimited. Let me correct myself. It was in one of the Justice League animated movies for DC. I believe it was, can you think of it?
Was it the
World's Finest?
Divided?
World Divided?
No. Sorry.
I don't know. We should have done more research. Our apologies. Don't get...
My brain's fried.
It's fine. Don't get Black Lightning confused with Static Shock either. Those are two completely different heroes. Okay? Static Shock is much younger. His name is Virgil. Virgil Hawkins.
This is Jefferson.
Yes. Do you know Jefferson's last name?
Pierce.
Jefferson Pierce, that's right. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in. So if you are still worried about spoilers and you're still watching up to this point, you're 3 minutes into the video and this is your own goddamn fault. And if I see anybody comment the word spoiler alert, I swear to God.
He won't do nothing.
No, but I'll think about, like, really terrible shit being done to you. And I won't feel guilty.
Alright, anywho.
Okay, so the show starts with
him getting his daughter from jail.
For protesting a gang called the 100.
The 100.
100. I guess, is he the chief or something like that? Is that what the police chief pulled some strings to get his daughter out of jail. On their way to a fundraising event, they're pulled over, and he is racially profiled and implemented in a robbery of a liquor store. It really hit on the, you know, kind of what's going on in the world today with police brutality and racial profiling and shit like that. It didn't get, like, too graphic or anything like that, but it definitely kind of gave you that feeling.
Like, she pulled out, his oldest daughter pulled out her phone to try and video what was happening, because they weren't speeding. It was a rainy day, and they were trying to get to this fundraising event for their school, and he gets pulled over. They aren't saying why he gets pulled over. They're telling him to get out of the car. They're not telling him why to get out of the car. They're like flashing their flashlights in the vehicle, in their eyes, and they tell his daughter.
And one of the girls, like, pulls out a cell phone, is, like, flashing her light back at them, and, like, yeah, doesn't feel good, does it? It's really funny.
His oldest daughter pulls out her phone and they're like, "Put your hands on the windshield." And then
she's yelling that she has the right to record it, but Jefferson is saying, just do what they say, just do what they say, and she does. The cops pulled a gun out, which is why he's like frantic.
He's like, "Stop," because of course he doesn't want his children to get shot. And it turns out like he was like, "Can you tell me what this is about?" And they were just like,
"Well, first they pull him over to I guess the woman who was robbed is in the back seat of the police car, and she goes, "Is this the guy?" She shakes her head, and they take him back to his car and basically just tell him have a good night. And he goes, "Are you not going to tell me what this is about?" And the guy kind of turns and looks at him, and then continues walking. He goes, "Hey, I asked you a question." And he goes, and that's whenever he's told, her liquor store was robbed, and he proceeds to ask them.
He says, "So let me guess, it was a black male in a nice suit
and tie, driving a Volvo like station wagon." And the cop just kind of laughed and said, "Have a good night," and left. From there, they go to the fundraiser.
Oh, and you pointed out that this is like the second time in a month.
Third time
in a month.
Yeah. Which kind of, again, it was one of those like details that added to the feel. Like, it's creating a mood for the show. It was creating a mood for the episode. So at this point, they're at a fundraiser where he's a principal for Garfield High School.
It's like a prep school kind of thing, where they wear
school uniforms and stuff like that. It cuts to a scene where his youngest daughter is in the bathroom getting ready at the school with a friend, and the older daughter walks in, is like, "Hey, I've been looking for you." And then she's like, "Why the hell are you dressed like a skank?" And she tells her sister, "I'm going to a house party, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "No, Dad wants you here," and this and that. And so she convinces her sister basically to cover for her. The older sister being Anissa and the younger one being Jennifer. Jennifer ends up lying to her sister, is not going to a house party, but goes to Club 100, which is ran by the 100 gang. Where she's, dancing and stuff and starts mixing it up with a guy there. Well,
she's smoking weed.
Smoking weed, yeah.
Naughty, naughty.
Hugs, not nugs, kids. So she ends up in this booth with this guy, and they're talking, and, he's trying to lay down some game, and she's like, "Just because I'm high don't mean I'm going to sleep with you."
In a bathroom.
At a club.
And he was like, "I was just kidding." And she said, "No, because if I would have gone for it, you would have been all about that." She's like, "And I'm not the type."
The conversation was really light and kind of, it was, just a normal conversation. You didn't, at this point, you don't think anything of the guy that she's talking to.
Yeah, you think he's just some regular guy.
Like maybe somebody that she goes to school with or something.
Well, or like maybe somebody who goes to a different school and she just happened to ran into him, like, and then all of a sudden, this other guy shows up, or the other two guys show up, and they start getting a little intense, and she goes to walk away because at this point, her dad has come home, realizes she isn't at home, and realizes where she's at.
Because he tracked her phone.
And her sister's texting her and is like, "Hey, Dad knows." Dad, yeah. So she's like, "Hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom while you talk to your friends." And these guys are like, "No, you sit right here." So she's like, "Crap." So then at this point, her dad shows up at the club and sees these guys
basically dragging her to this like back room where the gang leader for the 100, Lala, is waiting to talk to the guy that she was sitting with. The guy that she was sitting with is a member of the 100,
his name is Will.
Owes him money. Will is actually, which you'll find out later in the episode, is actually Lala's little nephew.
And he lost product and money when he got arrested, and whenever he went to jail, they gave him commissary money, and he had the best lawyer that the town had to offer. And so he owes all of this money. So at this point, Lala tries to say that Jennifer is going to...
He's going to hoe her out.
He's going to hoe her out to earn this money that this Will kid owes. And she's like, no, I'm not his girl. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a deal. And she was like, I kind of thought you were cute before I knew you were somebody's bitch.
And then kicked him square in the nuts.
And at this point, her dad is coming down the stairs, is trying to get in the room, and the guard pulls a gun on him, and he's like, I tried to do this the right way.
And this is where, like, you first start to see Jefferson use his powers. He shuts the lights off at the place, and it cuts back to the room that Jennifer is in.
And then you hear
and you can hear, like, the shit, like, from him, like, hurting the guy with lightning.
And you hear a gunshot.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, everyone comes out, and she stays in the room, and then it proceeds to, like, it shows her in the room, and then she comes out, and everybody is just...
clearing the club, basically, and she runs out as well.
And then you see him get stopped by the cops outside. Or, at first, you see him watch her leave. Up, like, from up top, so she still can't see him. And then he leaves. He gets stopped by the cops. And at first, he just stands there, and they're telling him to get down, and then they say, get your black ass down. And then that's when...
he shoots them with lightning and then blows up their cop car.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
It was. You don't have to, like... You just gotta be nice.
Oh, I thought you were about to be like, you don't have to, like, complete my sentences.
No,
I was like, shit.
I mean, geez, had they just been like, hey, dude, like, what, do you know what happened? I mean, he looks like a perfectly respectable man.
Yeah, at this point, he's still in a suit and tie.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, had I seen him, I'd been like, hey, sir, do you know what's going on? Not get your black ass down. Like, I would have thought that he was just a passerby. Wouldn't have thought he was coming from Club 100.
No, so it cuts to
he has a bullet home.
No. This is the two sisters at home.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
No, it cuts to him to Gamby coming.
Oh yes. Okay,
Gamby.
so.
Yeah.
Oh, chill the hell out. Hold on, I gotta reference my notes because
Okay, well, then
Gamby
I can
has
show
a
you.
first and last name.
Peter Gamby.
Yeah, Peter Gamby. There you go.
Gamby
is Alfred, basically.
essentially, but he's a tailor. He runs a tailor shop. He's not a butler, and he's known Jefferson since he was 12, and I guess. So Jefferson went there because he had a bullet hole, and I guess possibly from what?
From being shot at the club?
Yeah, because we didn't actually see him get shot. So that would be, I guess, when he would have gotten shot. And so he goes there to get stitched up.
Hold on, did he get shot by one of the cops?
No, they both had
tasers, yeah.
And he just plucked those right out, and because you had seen the bullet hole.
That's right.
Whenever he lifted his arm up, that's why I was like, you don't see him get shot. So then he, while he's getting taken care of at Gamby's, that's when it cuts to the daughters at the house, and the oldest is pissed off.
Basically, like, why the hell were you there? Like, you know why they call it Club 100? Because that's all who hangs out there. And
gangsters, and
then she got pissed off because Anissa is acting like it's not a big deal, and, you know.
No, Jennifer's acting like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, correct. Jennifer is acting like it's no big deal, and, you know, minutes before she was, shaking. She was scared, basically,
And I think it also, because it kind of cuts to, like, it shows where everyone's speculating that Black Lightning had something to do with what was going on at Club 100. And Anissa looks at the screen and she gets this look on her face. And at this point, you don't know that they have any clue whether or not he is Black Lightning or not. And she kind of looks at her sister and she was like, this isn't a game. And I think at that point, it's kind of when you realize that she knows, or maybe they know, and it's like, you do realize, like, he will kill himself protecting you.
And throughout the episode, there's little flashbacks of, in the past, confrontations between him and his ex-wife, who he's still really close to, and he's trying to win back, and part of that, part of the stipulation was, he was going to stop being Black Lightning, but he couldn't stop because he was trying to save people, and ultimately she left him because, his daughters had come in and seen him bleeding out in a bathtub. Mm-hmm. But, they're still close, and, she's a reoccurring character throughout the episode. After this, it cuts to them back at the school, and the guy that Jennifer was talking to in the booth shows up at the school, and she's like, what the hell are you doing here? He goes, oh, I saw you on Instagram, and then, I zoomed in on your logo, and I found you, and she's like, yeah, that's stalking, get the fuck away from me.
And then he grabs her, and
it causes a scene. The older sister is a teacher at the school as well.
Yeah, she's a med student, and then she teaches a couple days a week health classes.
And so, she runs up on him as I don't know who the fuck you are touching my sister, basically. And he goes, bitch, you need to get out of my face. And then she's like, I'm calling the cops. And does he go to, grab her? Or he grabs her whenever she turns around, and she turns around, punches him in the stomach, and, flips him.
And he was like...
And at this point, Jefferson Pierce is walking down the stairs of the school as the kid is getting up, and the kid's about to pull a gun, and Jefferson runs up on him, grabs the gun, and is like, hey, you're on parole.
You don't want to go to jail. You don't for shooting up a school. That's life without a chance of getting out.
And he goes, do you know who the fuck I am, basically? And then he was like, no, but the cops don't either, and they're not going to give a damn. They're just going to shoot your black ass for fun. And, it's very, the feel of, the situation, not just, in that moment, but just the overall feeling of, the racial tension in the town is felt throughout the entire episode. It really is you have to survive being black.
And then it was even because after this scene, it takes Jefferson, instead of going to the police and saying, this gangster showed up at my school, threatened my daughters, pulled a gun out, he goes to the head of the 100 and he was like, we had an unwritten rule.
Well, he said he had gone to all the gang leaders.
Yeah, and we had
who Lala actually graduated from the school that Jefferson teaches is a principal at. They know each other. He's calling him Latavius, not Lala. And he goes, nobody's called me that since I graduated. And that's how you know that they know each other. They kind of give you that context clue.
But then he was like, the school is off limits.
It's a safe zone.
And he broke the rule. And he was like, yeah. And he was like, he's been a little lost since he got out of jail, but you don't really want to hear that. And it was kind of that, he realizes that he doesn't care, but at the same time...
It was pretty much him calling Jefferson an Uncle Tom.
Yeah. But then it just... I don't know, it was a very awkward
It's an odd scene. A small kid walks out, and Lala's like, hey, come here. And he goes, this is Jefferson Pierce. He's the principal of the school I went to.
Introduce yourself.
And the kid is just like, what's up? And he goes, hey, that's not how we introduce ourselves. Look at Mr. Pierce in the eye, shake his hand, tell him who you are. Then he gives the kid some dap, and then pulls him in and starts like reprimanding the kid. He goes, "I heard you've been playing too much video games, this and that," and essentially is threatening him and
Then
giving him like the hard knock life speech about how, while you're in your little fantasy land, all these white kids that you're selling to in the neighborhood are gonna be coming up over you and keeping you down, this and that. And at that point, Jefferson gets involved and says, "Hey, this is too much," and it kind of pushes the two apart.
Well, this was like at this point he's like squeezing his hand. The kid says, "Ow," and then that's when he was first like, "Hey," and then he grabs the kid by the back of the head and pulls him in, and that's when Jefferson grabs and pushes him apart because he's like, "You're getting too violent."
He's like, "That's enough." And then Lala pulls a gun on him and was like, "You know my name, say it."
And this is when he turns into like a little.
That's when he, it kind of shows his true colors. And he goes, "Lala," and he's like, "I'll deal with the shit with my nephew." He's like, "But you're gonna owe me one. Are we good?"
And at this point, while all this is going on, said guy shows back up at the school with two other guys and guns and kidnaps the girls straight out
Both of his daughters, the one that's teaching the class and the one that's in the class.
And takes them to a hotel. So then Jefferson and his ex-wife
Are at the police station.
go to the police station, and he's like, "Well, we can't just go to this hotel without knowing for sure that they're there." And he's like, "Well, how are you going to get the confirmation? How long is that going to take?" And he was like, "Well,
no, it was more like, I needed to just go talk to them." And he goes, and then the police chief is like, "You should have came to me. Had you come to me in the first place, this probably wouldn't have ever happened, this and that." And then he goes, "Oh, no, it's not your fault," basically apologizing. And then he says, "Just let us do our job," and then walks away. And then he looks over at his ex-wife he starts to walk off, and then his ex-wife is like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going to get our girls." And she just kind of gives him a nod.
Bring them home. And then he goes to Gamby, and he's like, "The 100 has my daughters," and he goes,
Downstairs.
"Meet me downstairs."
And to the back,
And he just has this look on his face where he's like, "It's business time." And he pulls down the curtain, locks the door.
Shuts the hidden stairway down to the Batcave. The Lightning Cave.
Oh my gosh, honey.
I'm telling you, dude, if this isn't a Batman-Alfred relationship, I don't know what
then
is.
He goes, and Jefferson's looking at his old suit, and he goes, "I've been working on something different. Something better." And it's this full, decked out,
What's cool though is, if you've ever read the Black Lightning comics or seen Black Lightning in any of the animated stuff, you actually get to see both of Black Lightning's suits. The earlier version is seen in a video that's shown, and it's sitting there on a table or some shit.
Yeah, that's the suit he was looking at.
And then Gamby introduces him to his new suit, which, from that point, it just cuts to him, standing on a rooftop in this new suit, powering up.
And then he, jumps down and, sparks fly.
He kicks ass all through the hotel.
And then, at this point, it shows Lala in the hotel room, and he was like, "You thought bringing these girls here was a good idea?" And the guy's just like, "Yeah." And
he's like, "Their dad is Black Jesus in this community."
And then he just proceeds to pistol whipping the shit out of this guy.
His nephew.
Yeah, his nephew. And then the guy was like, "I've been running this show for 5 years now, and we haven't had any violence in this town." And he's like, "Now we have this." And then he was like, "Murk these girls and get rid of them, and I'll handle the rest." And the girls just look terrified. And then you hear some of the rustling outside. So Lala takes off. And then that's what it kind of leads to. They start to bring the girls outside. Black Lightning confronts him. And he just like, nice suit.
Yeah, and then shoots him. And then he looks down and he goes, "You didn't even give me a chance to say anything heroic." And then zaps his ass.
He's like, "You just pissed me off." And he's like holding him.
With the lightning. Like just holding him suspended while he's like shooting lightning into him.
And then the girls like take off.
And in the most Batman voice ever, it says, "Where's Lala?" Not really, but that's kind of, it's like...
Will you stop?
It was a very Batman-esque interrogation tactic, which is funny to me because for those who don't know, Batman is actually one that trained him for a short time in the comics. After the first run, Black Lightning lost his powers, but Batman still wanted to recruit him to a group called the Outsiders, and basically taught him like the martial arts and shit that he knows, and turned him into a badass. So not only can he shoot lightning, but he can just straight up, like Batman style, beat you up, which I assume is where he learned the interrogation tactic.
Probably. I mean, he was like hanging him off a ledge over a car.
He's like, "Is that your car?"
And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, it was nice.
And then like shoots him into the car.
And then he like is standing on top of the roof while the girls are being interviewed by the police, and then shows up right as the girls are being reintroduced to their mom.
And the chief is there.
And so he just like runs up all back in his suit and like gives them hugs.
His like business suit, not his kick-ass suit.
And then he goes and takes a shower while the girls go to sleep. So he's like
dripping blood and shit. And then it cuts to his wife or ex-wife, and you know he kind of walks up behind her, all sensual-like, and is like, "It's not over."
Well, she said thank you.
And then he's like, "It's not over."
And she just kind of
gave a nod.
And then his daughter wakes up and she's like, you know, having flashbacks, you know, PTSD. That was a very traumatic experience. And she goes to the bathroom, and as all these like flashbacks,
his oldest daughter, Nissa.
And then you see her hands glow, and then she breaks the sink in half.
So that's introducing both of his daughters are metahumans as well. And as the series progresses, they'll probably both get their powers. Anissa being Thunder and having the power basically to create energy within herself and stomp the ground and cause tremors, so like thunder. And then Jennifer's powers are very similar to her dad's, and her superhero name is just Lightning. They're similar to her dad's, but she has a harder time controlling them.
I could see that.
But that hasn't been introduced into the show yet.
Right, that makes sense though, because she has a very erratic personality.
There's also a scene where Lala is stopped by two thugs at gunpoint and kidnapped and brought to a man named Tobias Whale. Tobias Whale is mentioned earlier in the episode as someone who he killed Jefferson Pierce's dad. The whole reason he became Black Lightning in the first place was to get revenge, and obviously this hasn't happened because Tobias is alive and well.
And Tobias thinks he killed Black Lightning.
But he basically tells Lala, "Look, I killed Black Lightning. Whoever this is, you need to take care of it, or I might as well just kill you and take care of it myself."
After he
shoots him with a harpoon,
and is like, "Do you believe in the resurrection?" And she's like wrangling him in.
Because it's a beautiful story, but it's fiction. I killed Black Light. Like it's a really, really cool scene. But and Tobias Whale is played by like an albino black guy.
But I think what makes the scene for me even better is the way he speaks.
Like if you've ever seen Blake Griffin, the guy kind of looks like he's the same like skin tone and like facial hair color as Blake Griffin. But he's very obviously African American.
So is Blake Griffin.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But he's like, but the guy speaks just so beautifully.
Yeah, he has like one of those like really deep voices.
And he's very articulate. It's just, it just made it very awesome. Like he wasn't, I don't know, he reminded me of like that old school gangster kind of a vibe.
Yeah, but to wrap things up, the episode was excellent. It's probably going to be really hard to beat as far as like premieres for a TV show go. I mean, it was, it's very, very true to the comic book origin. The only difference that I found when doing research online was Jefferson's original stomping ground is in Metropolis. It's a slum of Metropolis called the Suicide Slum. Whereas this takes place in a town called Freeland, or a slum called Freeland, but they don't ever mention Metropolis, which is weird because they should be able to mention Metropolis, seeing as Metropolis is mentioned in other CW shows. From what we know of the show, it's not going to cross over with The Flash or Arrow or Supergirl or Legends or anything like that. And at first I was kind of like, why? Like all their other shows do. And, you know, Black Lightning is an awesome character, and I think that he'd bring an awesome dynamic to, you know, the Arrowverse team. But after watching this episode, it's completely different. And so you can see why it wouldn't cross over. It's way better written. It was way better produced. It's just so good. And I really can't wait for the next, I can't wait for the next episode. I can't wait to see where this is going, because I really hope they don't turn it into what they've done with Arrow and Flash.
And we watched this episode twice.
We did. We watched it twice in one day. I hope they don't turn it into the, you know, sap fest that is, you know, Iris and Barry, or Oliver and Felicity. I hope that they, you know, make it about, you know, telling a story about a hero.
Because this storyline, I think, is very much needed this day and age. Like, I think...
Well, it's very, very relatable.
Exactly.
And this character, they've modernized this character so well to be able to tackle the issues of today, especially for African Americans. You know, he was profiled. He was dealing with gang violence. He was having to not only, you know, deal with the police, but deal in with these gangs, and so, you know, to make his school a safe place. You know, he was a man of the streets. Like he
grew up in the town. He was an Olympian.
He came back,
became a teacher.
Well, he became the principal, and you know, he hadn't had a violent incident in that school in the 7 years he had been there, up until the point of his daughter punching the gangster in the stomach and flipping him on his back.
It's a beautiful story, and he's a badass hero. It's just...
It gives you the episode gives you a lot to look forward to, and you know, it told a story and it completed a story all in an episode, but it gave you enough to build on. Like, you can see where it's going. There's going to be a showdown between him and the man that killed his father.
And it's not just like, I mean, it's going to be a showdown between...
And there's going to be little subplots, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to be...
But it's all gonna culminate to that.
And you also get to see, like, what's going to happen with his daughters, and what's going to happen between him and his wife, and then there's that, like, lady that he works with. I mean, there's a whole lot of stories within the whole story.
Yeah, but he's very devoted to his ex-wife, and I don't know if you saw this little Easter egg or not, but he still wears his wedding ring.
Oh, no, I saw it. But I'm just like that. I mean, I could see the wife and that girl that's got the crush on him going at it.
Yeah. Well, you ready to wrap this up?
Yep.
Alright, this has been your Black Lightning recap by the Instant Regret crew. This is Heather Wake. You can find her on Twitter at Mrs. Heather Wake. This is C Wake. You can find me on Twitter at Cameron Wake. You can follow the Instant Regret crew on all social media platforms by just searching at Regret Pod. You can find our live streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/Instant Regret Podcast. And I think that is everywhere that you can find us.
Yeah. Hopefully next week we're feeling better and...
Yeah, this has been a flu game. I think we did a pretty decent job of not, like, hacking and coughing throughout the entire thing. I know I had a couple times where I had to, but don't forget to be keeping your eye out on social media for a big upcoming reveal. We should be doing our big reveal on February 1st if everything continues to go as smoothly and as planned. Our social media coordinator will be dropping little hints and keeping everybody posted on the latest. So,
oh yeah, got my own little Easter eggs for you.
Oh, so be watching for that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching us because we enjoy doing this. And if you have any suggestions for anything that you'd like us to review or like us to talk about, or if you're curious about, any of the heroes or anything like that, and you just want us to give you a background, or bad guys, or any sort of character, in a fictional setting, whether it be video games, comic books, movies, TV, whatever, and you're just too lazy to Google, give us some suggestions. We'll do
the Googling for you.
We'll pull some stuff together and try and give you some good insight on some of your favorite characters. That's going to be it for the Instant Regret Crew. We'll see you later.